Why would black people in Brazil get upset about a black woman winning a beauty contest? The answer ends with ism, but probably not the one you think. Today we're talking about a mode of discrimination that predominantly impacts people of color, and you might be surprised hearing this from me, but this episode's not about racism. I'm talking about colorism. First, let's be clear about what the word colorism actually means. Colorism is not synonymous with racism. It's a form of discrimination based on skin color. And before you're like, wait, isn't that like the literal definition of racism? Hold on to your social constructs because we're gonna knock a few down. And today, we've got a special guest to help us with this demolition project. Hey Lee, let's break this one down.
Claro que sí. As a Latino of color, colorism is something I'm all too familiar with. Racism involves discrimination based on things such as skin color, but it's also dependent on power dynamics that become perpetuated by years of structural oppression. Black and Latino men getting longer sentences for the same crime as white men, racism. Black and Latino aunts telling you to date light-skinned men, colorism. Because we often conflate race with skin color, sometimes distinguishing between colorism and racism can get tricky, particularly in Latin American communities, where someone's heritage might include a combination of indigenous, black, and white European ancestry. And let me give you a hint, it usually doesn't get better the darker you are. Unless you're Big Papi. Everyone loves that guy. The start of colorism we recognize in Latin America today likely began when the Spanish brought a European caste system to the Americas. Illustrations from Mexico in the 1700s depict classifications for individuals based on their gender, race, skin color, or place of birth. And while this era generated terms like mestizo meant to refer to mixed race individuals, these hierarchies set the groundwork for associating whiteness with power and desirability. How does this influence Latinx culture today? Buckle up. First is privilege. In a lot of ways, lighter skin is still seen as better in Latinx communities, and can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. Sociologist Margaret Hunter writes in her research, Mexican Americans with light skin earn more money, complete more years of education, live in more integrated neighborhoods, and have better mental health than do darker-skinned Mexican Americans. A 2012 study showed that employers viewed light-skinned Black and Latino job candidates as more intelligent than their darker counterparts. And for those of you who haven't figured this out yet, skin color doesn't determine intelligence. Go ask Bill Nye or Neil deGrasse Tyson, thank you. Prioritizing light skin tone also illustrates how colorism operates as a mechanism that encourages passing, particularly among Latinos. That's how you end up with the 2010 census, where almost 76% of Puerto Ricans identified as white, despite data estimating up to 46% of Puerto Ricans had significant African heritage. Puerto Ricans, who are we lying to? Which brings us to number 2, self-image. In Brazil, a model named Nayara Justino faced the impact of colorism head-on. In 2014, she entered a competition to become the reigning queen of the Globeleza Carnival, which is televised throughout Brazil. The title had always gone to a woman of Afro-Brazilian heritage, but Justino is black and very dark-skinned, whereas previous winners were traditionally lighter-skinned. Despite that, she ended up winning the competition, only to have her title stripped away after the Brazilian public was up in arms because she was too black to be the Carnival's queen. In this instance, the outrage over Justino's skin color came from both white and black Brazilians. She was eventually replaced by Erica Moura, a lighter-skinned woman more in line with the color of previous winners. Colorism. It sucks. This is one way racism and colorism are different. Systems of oppression favor white people, meaning black people can't technically be racist towards other black people, but clearly in this case, they can and do perpetuate colorism in their own communities. The discrimination is coming from inside of the house. Example number 3, language. There's a pretty common phrase people in Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic grow up with, cafre. Among Spanish speakers in the Caribbean, the word means someone low class or brutish, and is said by people of all colors and racial backgrounds. The word implies you're acting darker in both complexion and behavior, but the word itself carries a linguistic and cultural connection to blackness. It shares roots with the South African racial slur, kafir. Should we have bleeped that? A colonial phrase that rose to prominence during apartheid and that's often compared to the N-word in the United States. While cafre might not carry the weight of an ethnic slur in Spanish, it's indicative of how colorism can quietly become a part of everyday life. So how do we begin to eradicate colorism from our communities? Let's get to work. It starts with some self-reflection. Sometimes our learned prejudices can take over like muscle memory. So first and foremost, ending colorism means unlearning what we've been told about what beauty and success should look like. So that goes for you, the I'm not black, I'm Dominican guy. You can be black and Dominican guy. But it also means breaking the steady stream of whiteness that still dominates Latin American media, politics, and culture. Trust me, I've been working in entertainment for a while and I've seen things. Perhaps most important, be conscious of elevating and uplifting voices that break our cultural expectations when it comes to colorism. And yes, have those tough conversations with family members, especially the ones encouraging a primita to date a lighter skinned guy. Grandma, tate quieta. Back to you, Francesca.
Ultimately, no one wants to be judged solely based on their external appearance. Whether these judgments come from people who look like you or don't, your skin color shouldn't determine your job prospects, your worth, or your place in society. We don't have to be colorblind, but combating colorism means embracing the full spectrum of our skin tones, especially in our own communities. Special thanks to Lee Chin for helping out this week, and thanks for watching. We'll see you next time right here on Decoded.